Hi everyone, I just wanted to give a quick intro and context to these videos. So I have a friend locally here who I play Digimon and Magic and some other stuff with who has expressed interest in WIXOSS. And obviously the game is 2 years old at this point, recently hit the anniversary or about to hit it, something like that. And we were playing and he sort of asked me offhand, like, is there a list of staples or anything like that out there? And I kind of thought and I was like, there's kind of not. So I made a bunch of them, one for each color and one for multicolor and colorless. And we basically went through it and recorded. It was sort of like a live stream thing. So it ended up being a lot longer than I thought. So I'm going to split these up into one for each color and then one for colorless slash multicolored. And I will also post the lists for all of them below if you wanted to check them out and see. There are some cards that I did not put in here and I forgot as we were going through, and I caught some of them and I have updated some of the lists. But so yeah, if you are new to the game, trying to figure out what the good stuff is, what people are playing at the 2 year anniversary point, um, this should hopefully get you started. This is sort of like a primer for people who are coming in knowing nothing, just to get a quick idea of what's out there. So enjoy. So green has the green sort of like the red-headed stepchild of Diva format. Green is very powerful in all-star format, and they've sort of overcorrected. I mean, you can just see how much shorter the list is.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of good green cards, unfortunately, but they're getting better. Mel is pretty easily the best of the green centers. She does come with coins, so again, her level 0 has 3 coins, and then she gets 2 at level 3. She has these are craft signi. So essentially, what these are like enchantments or like kind of like souls, honestly. That when she grows into level 3, you get one of each of these. This one you can attach it as a signy to get plus 10k power, so it's stickier and harder to remove. The back fat, when it's attached, gives it lancer, so it's potentially a damage option. And then soft boiled egg is whenever the signy this is attached to would leave the field, it basically comes back. So it's a way to get protection with something like an Exia that just becomes horrifying if you think about it. So these are signy and they
Yeah.
have like power values, but they're not used on the field at all. I honestly don't know why they did that. It may just be a legacy rule from like All Star format.
Or we're forward thinking or something just in case.
Yeah. So yeah, these are just basically like souls that you would attach with Deus. It's just with hers you have to pay an enter to attach a craft signy as an accessory, basically. So that's kind of her whole shtick is she has these accessories she attaches. She also has a once per game, which is like surprisingly relevant. During your opponent's next turn, they cannot use action spells or action abilities. There are some decks where this does nothing, and there are some decks where this completely shuts it off. So it's going to be a case by case basis. But really, it's just the accessories that have an interesting little way that they play with some of the other Signy and stuff. Oh, I forgot I did put II on here. So II is another one. She's one of the craft, the new ones that when she grows into level 2, you'll either add a merry-go-round or an Athla to your Elric deck as a Rezona that you can play in the future. Her abilities are like fine. She's not a whole lot to write home about. I think I just put her in here just because of the craft ability that it's
Yeah.
unique. I put Bang on here. This is the sort of standard green level 1, enter charge 2. They're not all strictly enter charge 2. Some of them are like, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, add 2 of them that share a color with your center. Like some of them are color related, some of them pull from the deck, some of them pull from the trash, but every green level 1, every green assist has a level 1 option that will put 2 cards from somewhere, either deck, trash, enter charge, into the enter zone. So they're really good
Okay.
at generating the enter. Sanga Ariel is one of the more unique level 1s. She gives a target level 2 or less Signy Lancer until end of turn. There are some diagram things that's sort of out of date at this point where you could reuse this. One of the diagram things is they could reuse their level 1 assists, so you could potentially use this twice in a game. That's sort of out of date at this point, but it's an interesting way to, because there are some, like having a Phalaris that has Lancer, for example, so you mill your opponent 10 and then also do a damage to them is, although it's level 2 or less, so that doesn't quite work, but still.
So are you just not able to do that anymore, or is it just not really good anymore to do
It's
it?
it's just not good. You can still do
Yeah.
it. So if you run like a Musica is the black center that was typically seen. with Sangha as the green assist, and they also have Madoka, who's a very powerful assist. But the problem is that like Musica's just doesn't keep up with the power of like Deus or like Nanashi or yeah, a lot of the old Dream Team or not Dream Team, like team specific stuff. So anything, so these L rigs that have this little team logo, this is a diagram. She's on team diagram. Um, you can still run them on team, but they just kind of have been power crept at this point. Like Bang is team Uchino
Yeah.
Hajimari. And then these don't even have teams because they're sort of legacy L rigs from the original series. So the other assists to talk about would be Mel. Mel is easily the best green assist. Mel Invisible by itself is one of, if not the most powerful defensive assist in the game. It's 2 enter to grow. The next time you take damage, you don't. You can discard 2 cards to do that again, and you can pay 3 enter to do it a third time. So for 5 enter and 2 cards in hand, you can prevent the next 3 damage full stop. And there are other effects that do this that we will see in some of the other colors, but they typically are messing with Signy in some ways. This and Deus Shield are like the only ways to stop 3 actual damage using just 1 assist Elrig.
Mm-hmm.
So very powerful. She also has another assist that a lot of people don't use. I think it's neat. She puts a Signy from the enter zone to the field. It basically does not trigger enter abilities. So there's potentially some ways to scam out because there are some Signy that have bad enter effects that have like good on-field effects. So you can kind of but they're typically not worth just running. Well, Exia is just always good. So yeah, I mean you could bring back Exia if you wanted as well, but that's probably a better way to go than to go like the scam route. I think she's just cool because she has a once per game to give a target Signy Lancer for 2 enter, just as a way to threaten some damage in and do some fun stuff with that. The only green piece we're going to talk about is Energy Door. You similar to the black one that Miasma Labyrinth. You choose one of these for each of your center levels, so you can basically. So it costs 3. You can also basically cost it 1 because you can bring 2 of those back.
Yeah.
Draw 2, vanish level 3 Signy, or guard damage from your opponent's Elrig. There's basically all 4 of these modes are relevant depending on game state, so it's a really flexible and powerful piece. It's one of the few like bright spots that I think green has. So, and you can actually, it doesn't have to be green center to run this. There are some decks that don't run green center that I think run this as well. All right, for non-life burst Signy, Robin Hood is a weird one. Basically, she is, as long as you have no other Signy, she gets the ability to pay 2 to basically vanish your opponent's entire board. So it's a little bit weird, but the reason to do that is at the beginning of your attack phase, you can, similar to like how Nanashi works, you can basically flip down 2 of the Signy on your field, so that she becomes the only one on the field. And then at the end of the turn, they flip back up to be defensive. So it's very sort of costly in terms of like resource. Because, I mean, paying 2 enter is not a lot, but the fact that you're generating 3 enter for your opponent isn't the best. It's a pretty bad rate, to be honest, but it's an interesting kind of effect to threaten in a damage.
It's only 1 attack gets through, sadly, with it, at least as it is right there.
Yeah, because there's no way to bring Signy back really at that point. Like after the
if you can clear all 3 and attack all 3, do really good.
Yeah. I don't think there's actually a way. There may be a way to do that. I don't think there is off the top of my head, but yeah, if you could do that, that would be really nice. Osagatsune is sort of the premier green removal Signy. Whenever she attacks, if you have enter charged 1. That's basically, this is the long way of saying if you have enter charged 1. Specifically enter charged, not like from trash or weird stuff. Then you can pay a green to vanish a Signy with power 12k or more. So this hits all the level 3s. Because when she enters, she gives up to 2 Signy 5,000 power. Typically you use this defensively to buff up your board, but if your opponent has like an 8k that you need to remove, you can give that plus 5 and now it's 13, so you can actually hit it with the removal effect. So yeah, she's really useful, just removal. Parajulis is sort of the level 1 version of it. It's literally the same effect, with the difference being it's 8,000 or less and not 12,000 or more. So they both go hand in hand, and they're really powerful together. Churin is a really good way to just enter charge 1. She turns on Parajulis and Osagatsune. Enter charge 1 for free is really good. 3k is pretty small for a level 2, but I think the enter charge is useful enough that she sees a lot of play. II is card I really like. Not a lot of people use her, but green does a lot of weird stuff with the enter zone. It kind of uses the enter zone as a second hand, so you can just down her to basically get a card. It's essentially paying an enter to get a card back to the field as long as that was in the enter. But there are some funny loops you can do, like if you have an Exia or something really horrifying. If your opponent vanishes it, it goes in enter, and then you play an II and bring it back. Then they vanish, it goes enter, and then the next turn you play another II and bring it back. So there's some gross things you can do. It's a lot. It's sort of like shortcuts because again, there's black ways that bring it back from the trash, but usually there's some in between. It's a really clean way to kind of like shortcut that methodology and do that. The fact that she has to down is a little awkward, but usually it's in decks that don't care that she can't attack when she does that, or you can just trash her and try again. Bang Memoria, discard up to 2 cards and enter charge 1 for each card discarded this way. One of the more unique and efficient ways to basically turn one resource into another. In this case, you're turning cards in hand into enter. There's a lot of decks that draw a lot of cards that don't generate a lot of enter, so they can potentially use this. When I use it in Anne, as you've seen Anne, she turns enter cards from her enter. When she grows into 3, she turns cards from the enter zone into her hand, so it's kind of like a roundabout way to draw 2, or like cycle 2 essentially at that point. This is one of the newer ones, Midoriko Memoria. While she's in the so she's normally a 12. While she's in the center, she gets +3, so she's at 15. And then if you have 3 or more green, enter can't be downed by your opponent's effects, which is pretty useful. So she's pretty much guaranteed to swing in at that point. And then she has an auto effect that's a little bit clunky to use. That when she attacks, if you've used a piece this turn, you can choose a Signy zone, and your opponent cannot attack. So she sort of like preempted Exia at that point when you use a piece.
Budget Exia.
Yeah, kind of like, yeah.
We have Exia at home.
Yeah, this is essentially Exia at home. That is for sure. It's good to know that the auto effect is not, like, this constant effect is only in the center, but these other effects are not. She doesn't have to be in the center to get these, which is kind of neat. Amino Acid is basically a tech card that if your opponent tries to minus Signy's power, instead it gets plus instead. So basically turns off all black forms of removal for your entire board. She also buffs up your Signy, which is, potentially relevant. That she herself... Oh, it's other Signy, never mind. But yeah, she green cares a lot about having big Signy, and the fact that she's a free 5k for everything is kind of nice. And again, the fact that she just basically makes your board immune to black removal is kind of funny too. Fennec, talking about caring about power. At the beginning of each attack phase, this Signy's base power becomes equal to target Signy's power until end of turn. You can target itself, so you can always just make it a 10k, but typically there's something bigger you want to hit. It's the kind of thing where if you have like an Osagatsune, you can buff something up. There's a bunch of other effects that do it too, like, Amino Acid's another one. Basically, you can make her huge, and then whenever a Signy with power 15 or K once per turn attacks, you enter charge 1. The Terror Beasts are a tribe that cares a lot about having high power stuff. We'll see them in red when we get there. There's the Terror Beasts are kind of red-green, and Fennec is sort of like a doubler, a way to kind of double down on your plus power effect. So you can kind of load them all up on one and then get a free, Fennec that's the same power out of them.
Another one.
Yep. Mirai is basically used because she has a constant effect, which is useful, that she cannot be vanished by the effects of your level 1 Signy. This only really affects Romale, as far as I'm aware, as far as like commonly used level 1 Signy. So it's not a whole lot. The most interesting thing is that she has the enter effect to just gain a color, which can be relevant for things that care about color. Sangha, as a center, this is her assist. As a center, Elrig, Sangha actually cares about having 3 colors on the field, so you can use that with like a Mirai, or again, the dual color Signy also work, but the fact that this becomes whatever color you need is potentially useful. It's sort of like a tech card that you kind of see every once in a while in very specific decks. Lavender is one of the best defensive green Signy that when she enters, you put a Signy without a guard from your zone underneath her, and then whenever she leaves the field, as long as it's not your main phase, if you do nothing, it just goes to your hand. If you pay to enter, then the card that's underneath her goes onto the field wherever you want it to. So Yeah, it's you can tuck an Exia or some other
Oh,
horrifying Signy, and then
yeah.
when
So I've played with this card years before, but I didn't know you could put it down anywhere. I thought it just had to go to the same lane.
nope,
That makes sense
yeah,
though.
I mean as long as the lane is open, you can put it wherever you
Yeah.
want. So yeah, um, it's an interesting it's sort of the kind of thing where if nothing else happens, if the Lavender's still on the field by the time your turn comes back around, you can basically enter charge her, and then whatever's underneath her goes to your hand, and then she just goes to enter. So you've basically drawn that card for additionally for turn. Or if you need it
Yeah.
as a defensive option, you can pay the 2 enter, and now you've clogged up a lane that was about to be opened. So,
Hmm.
and then Catempora is absolutely the best premier defensive green Signy. During your opponent's turn, all Signy on your field gain Shadow level 1 and level 2 that affects both Signy and Elrigs. So your opponent's like level 2 assist Elrigs if they would vanish it during their turn. It's only during your opponent's turn, but they just become immune to targeting from that. And then whenever this card would get basically actually it's end of the trash from anywhere. You can pay 1 and bring it back to your hand. This is most relevant when it's like discarded by effect. If your opponent like forces you to discard a card, you can discard Contempora,
Yeah.
pay an enter, and then bring back Contempora back to your hand. So you're still net neutral on that. If she does get trashed from the field somehow, that also triggers. Um, so yeah, she's just really annoying and makes her stuff really hard to remove. This is Scratch Art at the beginning of your attack phase. Target 1 card your opponent's trash and put it on the bottom of the deck. There are some things you can do if there's like a potential tech piece. You see like an Ereshkigal or something that may be important that you like. They might be bringing this back. You can sort of tuck it underneath so you don't have to worry about it. And then
That can really mess with the good dig deck.
yeah, that's also true. Yeah, if you're playing Card Jockey, yeah, she'll mess you up. And then whenever she's vanished, you get to target up to 3 Signy from your trash and put them on the bottom of your deck. So she's a little bit of refresh protection as well on top of that. And then this card is one I'm very excited about. It's basically, so it costs nothing, which is interesting. You can target a Signy in your trash that shares a color with your center Elrig and put it in the enter zone. If you pay exceed 7, you can get 2 instead of 1, basically. They don't have to share a color. The most relevant thing about this is that it's a 0-cost spell that will basically +1 enter you. Because if you notice, every other effect, I've put all the good ones on here, like Churin. There's some bad ones too that will enter charge you. This is a sort of non-committal way to just generate enter without needing to have green enter first.
Yeah.
Because there's some spells that will do it too, but they require green to use. So you can kind of splash this in any deck and generate the enter that you would probably need to grow your center or to do other things. And
Especially after the rule change, if the rule changes.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, that is